I was crack-a-lacking, people. It's your boy Tech G in the place to be. I posted a link last week for the Network Plus quiz. Told you guys to go watch these videos right here. Network Plus sections 1.3, CD, and 1.4a. They discuss routing protocols, IP version 6, and network performance concepts, and IP addressing concepts. All right, so that was what you guys are supposed to do for those of y'all who decide to participate. Anyways, go ahead and get into the questions and answers. So from that quiz, you have only one physical interface, but you want to connect two IP networks. Which of the following will allow you to do so? So you have one physical interface or one device is what this is really saying, but you want to connect two IP networks to it. Which of the following would allow for you to do this? This would be a sub interface. So basically this is more so along the lines of creating a VLAN is what this is talking about. So you're just going to create a sub interface, logically divide the device, the physical device. Which of the following routing protocols is a hybrid that uses a composite number for its metric based on bandwidth and delay? This will be EIGRP, or Enhanced Interior Gateway Routing Protocol. If you guys are lost or confused about what this is where I highly encourage you guys to go watch the videos, watch the lessons, because I explain all this stuff in detail so you can really soak it up and understand what's going on here. And which of the following tables does a NAT router store port numbers and their associated private IP addresses? Would this be an ARP table, a routing table, a translation table, or a MAC address table? So which of these tables does a NAT router store port numbers and their associated private IP addresses? This would be a translation table. So in case you guys don't know what NAT stands for, it stands for network address translation. It's essentially when you take the private IP address from all your devices within your local area network and you flip it to a public IP address on your router, so that when your device in your local area network is trying to communicate with an external website, the external website is actually communicating with the public IP address of that router, as opposed to connecting to the private IP address of the device within that network that router is in charge of quote unquote controlling. Which device is a NAT typically implemented on? Would this be a radius server, an AD server, ISP router, or a default gateway router? So which device is NAT typically implemented on? Network address translation, you implement this usually on a default gateway router, which is basically your standard SOHO router that's sitting in your house right now. Which organization is responsible for allocating public IP addresses? Would it be CompTIA, IETF, IEEE, or IANA? So who is responsible for dishing out these public IP addresses? This would be an organization known as the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. So they come up with a block of IPs or whatever the case may be, pass it off to your ISP. Your ISP kicks off your public IP address to your network, which is directly linked to your house. And then from there, you can do some subnetting and all this other wonderful stuff if you want, which most people don't. So which of the following IP address ranges is reserved for automatic private IP addressing, which is known as a PIPA? So which of these is reserved for a PIPA? This will be 169.254.0.1 through 169.254.255.254. So what is a PIPA? So like I said, it's automatic private IP addressing, but basically a PIPA is when you have a device in your local network that can't make communications or establish some type of connection with the DHCP, which is what it would get its IP address from. And so if your device can't get an IP address from the DHCP, it's going to assign itself an PIPA IP address, which ranges from what's highlighted on your screen. And that PIPA address will allow for that device to only communicate within the local area network. You will not be able to get out and surf the internet if your device is assigned an PIPA address. As long as it has that PIPA address, it'll try to make contact with the DHCP server, I don't know, every 3 minutes or something like that, until it can establish contact, and then the DHCP can assign an IP address to that device. And then once that happens, then your device will be able to go out there and surf the internet and watch Tech G on YouTube, right? So that's how that works. Which of the following DHCP scope options assigns a static IP configuration to a device that uses the device's MAC address? Would this be exclusion, default gateway, IP range, or reservation? So which of the following DHCP scope options assigns a static IP configuration to a device that uses the device's MAC address. This will be reservation. So basically, you're just reserving an IP address, right? You can think of this, you might want to give a printer a static IP address within the network so that no other device can get that IP, and then that device is always found because it's going to be the same IP over and over again.